eccentric, often brilliant gnomes are held as one of the most peculiar races of the world.
In the last chapter of One Piece, we see Imu seemingly take over Saturn while in his yokai form. Now, while it has long been speculated that Imu has given the Gorosei these wild powers that seem to exceed what we might think of from normal devil fruit powers, have you ever given any thought to what happens when they are taken back? Well, given the naming scheme of the Gorosei and Ancient Weapons, Rock's referring to Imu as the world, and Imu's mysterious double-circled eyes, I might just have a clue as to what is going on, and even to why it may be necessary for the Ancient Weapons to be so hidden away to begin with. Hello, back again with another One Piece theory, this time with a theory that may expose some truth behind Imu's powers and eyes. For this theory, we need to talk about a few things up front. Impel Down and Dante's Inferno. As the avid One Piece readers know, Impel Down is based on Dante's Inferno, a story about the 9 circles of hell and Dante's journey through them, each one being a different type of torture to the souls that reside there. Starting from the bottom, we have Circle 9, Treachery, an icy place said to be where Satan is housed, with his waist submerged into ice. Circle 8 is the Circle of Fraud, the darkness level, where souls are endlessly beaten and tortured in the dark. Circle 7, Violence. This circle is for the violent people, and they are drowned in a pool of blood. Circle 6, Heresy, a flaming pit guarded by demons. Circle 5, Anger. This circle is a never-ending battle of souls in a swamp. Circle 4, Greed, is a pot of melted gold, where souls claw their way out only to be dragged back in. Circle 3, Gluttony, a cold and endless rain falls on the souls who reside here. Circle 2, Lust, an endless storm of hurricanes pelts the souls here. And Circle 1, Limbo, a lonely and dark circle with the souls desperately wanting to meet with God. With this in mind, let's look back at what happened in chapter 1162. In 1162, we learn that Imu can possess the Gorosei, much like they can Gunko, though it seems like it may be a different type of possession from Gunko's, as she stayed true to her own body and Imu just added onto it. The jump to Saturn appears similar to a shadow swap for Moria's Devil Fruit to me, as Moria could swap places with his Doppelman, and the potential exists that Imu may be able to do the same thing with the Gorosei. When Imu descends onto God Valley, taking over Saturn as a vessel, we see the upper portion of his body with an Imu figure attached, while the bottom is still Saturn's Gyuki, bull, and spider demon body. Now later in this chapter, Rox refers to Imu as the world, possibly a reference to Imu being the earth, or Umi, the sea, Imu backwards. Even a Forbidden Sun parallel could work as well, or could be the obstacle Rox needs to overcome to become king of the world. Now I would like to talk about the namesake of Nerona Imu. A long-standing theory is that Imu backwards could be Umi, which is another way to say the sea. But what about the other name, Nerona? One of the most famous Roman emperors, Emperor Nero, is attributed with the number of the beast, 666. Emperor Nero is referred to as the Beast because his name, when translated into Hebrew and assigned numerical values, equals out to 666, the number of the beast in the Book of Revelations. I think that this is where Oda is drawing the inspiration from for Nerona. Some sources even claim that the number is not 666, but 616. When I heard this, I immediately thought of Doflamingo's attack, 16 holy bullets, which is also the number of lasers that come out of the sky laser that Imu uses to destroy Lulusia. It could be that Oda is pulling from both of these numbers for Imu's character. Some other interesting tidbits about Nero include that in the Book of Revelations there is said to be 3 beasts: a dragon, which is later revealed to be Satan, a sea beast which is called the Antichrist and is attributed with Nero, and the last one, a beast from the earth, a false prophet. Now, Nero being associated with the sea beast is very interesting because, as we talked about earlier, Imu backwards means the sea, connecting this back to the idea of Nero and their association with the number of the beast. Nerona being the part about the devil and Umi being the sea makes a lot of sense to me when looking at the evidence. Another detail that caught my eye is apparently Nero liked to refer to himself as a god, and one god in particular was his chosen likeness. This god was Apollo, the god of the sun in Greek mythology, essentially a false sun god. With Imu's namesake out of the way, let's take a look at the Goroseis. The family names of the Gorosei may denote a circle of hell, and these include Jay Garcia, Marcus, Topman, Ethan Barron, Shepard, and Nerona. Not only do they have celestial dragon family names, but they also share names of planets, those being Jupiter, Mars, Mercury, Venus, and Saturn, which ties a thread with the ancient weapons naming scheme that I will shed some light on. Neptune Shirahoshi obviously represents Poseidon, and Kozuki Momonosuke represents Pluton, which resides below Wano. I think the last is the hardest to figure out, but ultimately I'm thinking of Nefertari Lily, which has now been passed down to Vivi, which is a strong reason for Imu wanting the Gorosei to find Vivi. I think that each of these 9 names represents a circle of hell, along with the planet or god names of their ancient weapons. So what happened to the ancient weapons? Well, I think Imu took Uranus, but the other 2 were very well hidden. One was hidden under Wano, sleeping away all this time, waiting to be unleashed by the order of a Kozuki and the strength of Zunisha. The mermaid princess from 800 years ago hid their lineage of Poseidon in the family line, and I think Lily could have taken the power source for Uranus, which was rendered useless until Vegapunk created the Mother Flame. Uranus's original power source, and maybe even its current form, could have been powered by the Forbidden Sun. Thanks Ghost Train for this one. And the fact that we see Imu in the mural holding the Forbidden Sun on the left-hand side further indicates this could be the case. Another factor is that the first world of the Harley says the earth had fire in it. To me, this is talking about the Forbidden Sun and how Imu took it from the earth, essentially making them the world that Rox was talking about. Now I think the key figures from 800 years ago did this to buy the world time to gather strength, let the sovereigns of the world reincarnate into new bodies, such as Shirahoshi and Luffy, and then take the fight back to Imu. We don't know exactly why Joy Boy lost to Imu, but if I were to take a guess, I think it would be something to do with the 9th circle of hell, treachery. The smallest circle, and the furthest down, I think that Imu may have betrayed Joy Boy, perhaps during a time they were close friends. I find it interesting that the 9th circle is supposed to be an icy place, and Imu keeps the giant straw hat in a massive freezer hidden away from everyone else, and it seems like Imu even goes down to this freezer every once in a while to check if it's still there. This reminds me of the story of Atlas and Hercules, where Atlas tricked Hercules into holding up the world. This is a bit of speculation, but I think this could have been similar to what happened between Imu and Joy Boy. Throughout the story, we have seen lots of figures with double-ringed eyes, sharing a similar trait with Imu, so here I will present what I think is going on. Hakuba and Cavendish, for example, as when both are awake, he develops ringed eyes, implicating that there are 2 souls in one body active at the same time. Normally, this is not the case. If just Cavendish is awake, his eyes are normal, and if just Hakuba, his eyes are missing pupils. The only time we see these double-ringed eyes occurring is when both are awakened at the same time, such as the time when Cavendish was trying to take back control from Hakuba when he was running after Robin. Now another example of this is Big Mom. When Big Mom uses her soul power, she also gains another ring around her eye, as we can see when she is using Soul Pocus against Jinbei, as well as when she was having one of her hunger pangs on Whole Cake Island over the wedding cake. She becomes skinny and seems to draw more power in, and this is when a second circle appears around her pupil. Now the next 2 are more difficult to pinpoint exactly, these being Mihawk and Zunisha. Mihawk is called Hawkeye, and seemingly always has these eyes. I have 2 ideas for this. My first one is that Mihawk is so attuned with his sword that he is essentially a sword and a person at the same time, giving him a permanent ring around his eye. This is possible since we know swords in One Piece can have some form of sentience, as seen with Enma imposing its will on Zoro. Secondly, I think it's possible that Mihawk is a Nerona. There have been a lot of theories about this recently, and I think it could explain his eyes, being something similar to the satellites of Vegapunk and him sharing the eyes that Imu has at the same time. Finally, I would also like to discuss Zunisha. We don't know a lot about Zunisha, besides being Joy Boy's friend in the past and supposedly committing a terrible crime. My best guess for this would be that Zunisha has been cursed with another soul, and that is why they have been cursed to walk for all these years. Zunisha essentially loses free will, except when a Kozuki with the voice of all things gives the order to do something. Now, let's talk about both times we have seen Imu's eye with a third circle. In both cases, we only see one eye, as the other one is out of the panel. The first instance we see a third ring around Imu's eye is when Sabo attempts to save Cobra from Imu and the Gorosei. He directs fire at Imu, and in this moment we get a glimpse of Jupiter's face, confused. We then see Imu's eye 2 times. Once is Imu with their normal double-ringed eye, and then in the next panel after that we see that Imu's eye is now triple-ringed. Imu then eats the fire that Sabo sent. We then see the Gorosei surrounding Sabo with Imu perched above them, but one of them is missing, Jupiter, who is nowhere to be seen in this panel. After Sabo and Cobra talk, we then see that Jupiter has now reappeared, donning his desert worm form. The next time we see an extra ring appear around the eye of Imu is when Saturn is killed by Imu during the course of the Egghead incident and its aftermath. After Saturn is extinguished, the third ring appears once more, implying a return of the soul to Imu. Now you are probably asking yourself, how does any of this tie together? Imu is normally shown with 2 rings around the pupil, and if we think about how a heliocentric solar system works, the middle would be the sun. This could possibly be the forbidden sun from the center of the earth that we see on the mural. Throughout the story, we have had almost no mention of Uranus, besides Robin's first mention of it on Fishman Island, and she even says the ancient weapons are named after gods. Ivankov says that the world government could have an ancient weapon to themselves after mentioning the name Nerona Imu. Uranus would be the only one left, and I think that the world government has control of it. The only reason they haven't used it until now is because they lack the power source to do so. For the 2 rings around Imu's eyes, I think one denotes the Earth, and the other one denotes Uranus. Imu having absorbed the power of Uranus, adding a second ring to the eye. We see when Saturn is killed by Imu on Egghead, Imu gets a third ring around their pupil, the same as with Jupiter and Marajwa, almost as if the power has been absorbed back into Imu after being given away. So I believe that every time Imu brings in another planet from the Gorosei, or ancient weapons, another ring will encircle the pupil, going up to 9 at maximum power, after Imu has accrued the rest of the ancient weapons and the powers of the Gorosei, which would mean at most in the story we have only seen Imu at 3/9 power. My theory is that Imu's eyes are mimicking the planet's orbits, each planet or god adding another circle around Imu's eyes. Dante's Inferno has 9 circles of hell, the smallest one at the very bottom being where the devil is frozen in ice up to the waist. We have 9 planets, including Pluto, since when One Piece was started, Pluto is still considered a planet, so it still fits. 9 planets, 9 circles of hell, and 9 family names. A theme is emerging here, and with my theory that 9 circles will eventually envelop Imu's eyes, we are seeing a massive pattern. Now earlier we talked about how if you wrote Imu's name backwards, it would be Umi. A joke was made in Dak's Discord about this being a Domi Reversi on Imu's true name, which I find very funny. But what if you also Domi Reversi'd or flipped 999? It would become 666, the number of the beast, which we know is associated with the Roman Emperor Nero. Just look at the way Bragi gets flipped on the ground, and it's the same thing that would happen with a 9 turning into a 6. Imu's comparisons to the devil have been vast throughout the story, but I will name a few here. Imu wields a trident, or a pitchfork, like the devil. He has devil wings. The abyss symbol that Imu uses was literally a pentagram, and when Sabo found himself next to Imu at the top of the world, his remark was, "Who knew I would find hell at the top of the world?" Now we gotta talk about some stuff I couldn't find a place for. So we know that Garling has settled in his Saturn's place as the warrior god of science, though we have yet to see if he has been given the name of a celestial body. Giving him the same Saturn name would make sense, but Garling's hair mimicking a star/a crescent moon makes me think he might be given a crescent moon as his celestial body equivalent. But what does this mean for the powers that Garling has been given? We have not yet seen if Garling has a devil fruit or not, but I want to assume he doesn't. Given that other Gorosei's powers seem almost demonic in nature versus a normal devil fruit, it makes me think these powers come directly from Imu. So I think Garling would also fall under this category. However, him having the same Gyuki power would be kind of lame and anticlimactic. But going off of the crescent moon symbolism, I think a werewolf power would be a very good choice, given that his son also has a sword made from a dog, Cerberus. I think this would just be an awesome addition to the Gorosei's powers. In summary, I think that Oda is making a version of the planet's orbits and Dante's Inferno into a conjoined concept. The 9 circles of hell mimicking the 9 planets' orbits and the names of the 9 families that have been pulled into this conflict for the last 800 years. The pentagram being a symbol of hell, but also a 5-pointed star plays into this as well. The sheer amount of devil symbolism associated with Imu is astronomical, and I think this is a way to tie it all together while explaining Imu's eyes, one of the most anticipated things in the story of One Piece. Lastly, I would like to shout out Jiji and Birch for helping me out with this. Couldn't have done it without you guys. And I would like to say, please like and subscribe. Thank you. Take care.